I'm Tommy Anglem, and today I'll be talking about Pardon My Take. Pardon My Take is presented by Barstool Sports, and this is my social media analysis project. What is Pardon My Take? Pardon My Take was started in February of 2016, and it is a sports podcast. It's also relatively new. Pardon My Take is a podcast within a multimedia company called Barstool Sports. As a college student, if you have social media, I'd be surprised if you didn't know what Barstool Sports was. It's a big multimedia company. They have tons of different podcasts. They have a Twitch channel. They have about any social media you can think of. And it's all just a website. It's a really cool concept. And they make this really cool podcast called Pardon My Take. Um, Pardon My Take is ranked 28th on the most listened to podcast charts and has episodes airing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's considered a sports podcast, but it features a lot more, and I'll get into that later. It only makes money on merchandise, ads, and promotional opportunities, which I think is really, really interesting. It's so successful, and it only makes money those three ways. And speaking of that, the episodes make around $50,000 on advertisements, and that's just a crazy amount for how little they do. About the social media. Okay, so I mainly focused on Instagram with some research on Twitter. The Instagram just was easier to follow and a little bit more organized. The time frame I chose to do was April 10th through May 10th. Its Instagram following when I first began on April 10th was 546K. And May 10th, the day I ended, it was 553K. So it had a pretty significant bump up there. And then the Twitter followers for April 10th was 509K. And the Twitter followers at the end on May 10th was 520K. So again, they gained a good amount of followers in 1 month. So think about what they do in a year. The main objective of the social media is to get people to listen to the Pardon My Take podcast, buy the merchandise, and just become overall fans. I think they really stress user engagement, which we'll get into in the next couple slides. The tweets in my time frame, they had 860, which is absolutely insane. This isn't them just sitting and tweeting things. This is a lot of different retweets, different promotional opportunities. Their Twitter is a lot of informational stuff about Pardon My Take. And then the Instagram posts in the time frame, I had 113, which is still so much. And these are mostly videos, just promoting who they talk to and what they're doing on their show, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So things I noticed, this is like going through with the strategies that they use. They use a lot of two-way communication. In their podcast, they have this segment called Mount Rushmore, and they choose a subject and they pick out the best things about that subject, and each of them write 4 answers down, and they all go through and talk about them and why they picked them. These can be sports oriented or not sports oriented. Doesn't really matter. But they first discuss them on the podcast, and then they bring them over to the Pardon My Take Instagram, which I think is a great idea. These get tons of user engagement. As you can see, one of them has like 10,000 likes and 5,000 comments, and the other one has 12,000 likes and 1,000 comments. So that's tons of cool engagement, and it's all or most of the comments pertain to those picks, which are really cool. They basically are bringing the arguments that they talk about in the podcast over to social media for user engagement. and I think it's really ingenious, and obviously it shows in their numbers. So their use of influencers. So on every episode, they have at least one celebrity. They have a lot of reoccurring guests that come on about once a month. Brooks Koepka, as you can see in the picture, is one of them. He's a famous golfer. They have Baker Mayfield on, who's the Browns quarterback. Joe Burrow, who is now becoming a beast of a football player. They just have tons of followers and tons of influencers, like celebrities like that. Also, which is pretty cool, the hosts, Big Cat, PFT, and Hank, are influencers themselves. They've become huge media presence online. As you can see, Big Cat has 599K followers, which is actually more than the Pardon My Take page in general. So I think that's pretty cool. The audience diversity. I struggle with this one a little bit because Pardon My Take sort of has one set of consumers that they're really looking for. It's really a male range 18 to 34. Even though I say this, they feature obviously like famous sports icons, comedians, actors, and musicians. So it's really not all about sports. It's really not a totally male-oriented podcast. Ever since COVID happened, since there's been no sports, they've still had to make 3 podcasts a week. So they have been branching out to watching documentaries, talking to just all kinds of comedians, all kinds of people. They even talked to Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is all over the news right now. He's a COVID expert. I thought this was pretty cool, and I'm going to read the caption that they put on this post. Very informative interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci on today's PMT. Get informed on coronavirus and share with the people close to you. This is just totally like out of the ordinary, Pardon My Take. It's usually just like a sports comedy thing, but they really outdid themselves and found something that really involves everyone. And you could see it in the comments to that post. There were tons of people outside of their general range of consumer, which I thought was really cool. Suggestions I had for Pardon My Take, to make their Instagram and Twitter obviously more organized. Their Twitter is mostly informational stuff, and I don't really totally know what suggestions to give. It's pretty hard to make a Twitter page really organized, but I found it really hard to navigate. There's just so much random stuff on there. Part of me feels like it's supposed to be like that, and part of me feels like it's just a lot. The Instagram page, so it's interesting. If you swipe up on their merchandise piece, it's there's like no link. So I think they do need to put that in, because obviously it's a really vital part of their making money in general. And the other thing that I had was just to make their audience more diverse. I think they've obviously been doing a really good job recently because of COVID. Their sports, their main subject, has been taken away. So they've really had to branch out. And I think that's doing a lot of good for their program. I also thought that I also noticed that their Instagram was very two-way communication. They wanted it to be really engaging, and they wanted a lot of audience participation, while their Twitter was mostly just informational. Like, they had a lot of links to their Twitch channel so you could watch them play video games. It was really, really informational and a lot less promotional, which I thought was very interesting. So in conclusion, Pardon My Take effectively uses social media to promote their podcast, and continue to become more popular. If you have any questions, I know you can put them in the discussion. I really enjoyed doing this project. It's been really cool to see the differences now between what I've learned and something that I really love and I listen to every week. Um, Thank you.